Hi, I'm Joanna Fantozzi, Associate Editor with Restaurant Hospitality. We're here with Gregg Frazer, Vice President of Hospitality at Stone Brewing Co., the largest brewery in Southern California with 2 restaurants and 4 tap rooms. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, first of all, before we kind of dive into talking about technology and how that's kind of evolved throughout the pandemic, can you get us caught up over the past almost year of COVID, how your business was affected and how you've dealt with the challenges?
Sure. Of course, like everybody else, COVID hit fast and furious right around middle, end of March. And unfortunately, we were faced with the tough decision of having to shut down all of the restaurants, of course, immediately moving to a to-go and delivery business, which unfortunately was, for us where we are an experiential destination, really, was a fraction of the business. So we did have to part ways with a significant amount of people when the pandemic first hit. And then being in California, we were able to, once allowed to reopen a couple months later, were able to bring back on some people, but of course it was outdoor dining only, which, also affected our sales as well as, with the event business, San Diego being one of the larger destinations like Las Vegas for tourism. That was, of course, greatly impacted as well. So our event business went away. So we were able to bring it back on a good number of people for the outdoor operation, but still the sales, significantly impacted, and by significantly, over 50% of our sales were diminished through the pandemic. So, and then had to unfortunately go through another shutdown in California, which we again had to part ways with a significant amount of people. And then as of actually Monday, we will be reopening for outdoor dining only.
Right. Of course, a lot of restaurants are kind of getting back to things as indoor and outdoor dining begins to slowly reopen. It's been a lot of really ups and downs, and I think that the key to it, obviously, your business and so many others have struggled so much throughout the pandemic. I think really the key to getting over these hurdles is really what I'm kind of terming convenience technology. It sort of became the theme of the pandemic as a lot of operators kind of scrambled to add those delivery options, the contactless solutions. So how would you say that your kind of approach to technology evolved since March? I mean, obviously, you guys are an experiential uh, establishment, so it's probably a little bit new territory.
Yes and no. The benefit for us at Stone. So prior to COVID in March, what happened? We had one restaurant at the time in Shanghai, in China, and I was out there toward the latter part of 2019, preparing to open a location in Beijing. While I was out there, I really was able to witness what I would call kind of a cashless society, where contactless ordering was not only a thing, it was commonplace in China when I was out there. And upon returning, there's been a lot of chatter in our industry, at least in the US, had kind of dipped their toe into the contactless ordering thing. But, I think COVID definitely, catapulted into a whole new territory. And so actually in November of 2019, we started putting in place contactless technology. And at the time, we were just utilizing it or intending to utilize it just to service those areas. We have gigantic facilities with lots of square footage and areas where it didn't make business sense to be able to staff those. So contactless ordering was going to be our solution to try to create a revenue generating source from those areas which we couldn't service. So we had already started the building blocks. We were utilizing a technology called GoTab to put in place there. And we were actually just getting ready to go in March, and then the shutdown happened. But what that did for us is, we integrated it with our point of sale solution. So that took some time to get that going. And what it really did is it set us up for success as we were able to reopen. Instead of reopening with exactly the same business model and operation, we pivoted the entire business to this contactless ordering system, which ultimately proved tremendous for the business as a whole as it pertains to profitability.
Hmm. Um, and I think that what's interesting is that we're going to, moving forward, have to find a happy medium between the personalized experience and the digital convenience that things like the contactless solutions have gotten us used to, have gotten consumers used to during the course of the pandemic. So how do you kind of find that happy medium between what your business kind of used to be and kind of what it pivoted toward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think, for me, contactless ordering, what it gives you the ability to do, and I believe kind of the future for a significant amount of operators will be is utilizing it in some capacity. And I think more than anything, it gives you the ability to flex your service style. And what I mean by that is in a slower period of time, we moved to what I would call a labor light model using contactless. Um, and yes, people come in, and to me, service is not order taking, right? Service is all the other stuff that's around that. So shifting the order entry to the customer really forces you to focus on, well, what really makes up the experience? What is the service? We implemented having cicerones, which is the equivalent of a sommelier in a restaurant, making sure they do a table touch. We make sure our hosts now do a much higher level of greeting in terms of getting the guest or the fan ready for the experience, making sure they're all set, they understand the technology. We have a concierge feature, which gives the guest the ability to text to someone who can then dispatch whatever is needed to that guest. So it really helps you to rethink. But in terms of the labor model, in the slower times for restaurants, I think in the future, being able to have those guests during, a Monday lunch where there's very few servers, but they can enter in and we can still have the table touches through managers. And then going into perhaps a Friday night service where it's busy, where we can layer in some more service based on those increased sales. I think the contactless ordering, like I say, gives you the ability to flex your level of service. And that, to me, really is the future of where the hospitality industry is going and how they'll utilize the contactless ordering.
Hmm. And so that is interesting that you're kind of seeing how hospitality really almost is changing. And how do you think that that's sort of affecting what you're looking for in terms of employee skills and how they're going to be interacting with people?
Yeah, I do think what it's really done is, at least for Stone, I can speak to, is it shifted how our team operates from more of an individualized, I have my section, I'm focused on my people, and it really push this kind of one team, one dream philosophy of everybody's working together to ensure that every fan and every guest that's there has an amazing experience. And you can say, and usually it's a lot of words, and you try to drive that into your team. But when we've done this and the fans are ordering the food on their own, and perhaps people have a bigger section, it's created where every guest in our restaurant is everybody's responsibility. And that ultimately, it's been a huge win for us in terms of just how the team functions together and ultimately what the guest experience has become.
Mhm. And kind of moving forward as you kind of implement any more of these technologies to kind of uh, make your operations more seamless, what is on your tech wish list to make guest experiences even better?
I do think, right now we're in a world where QR codes is kind of the entry point to any of this ordering or contactless ordering. The technology exists, of course, with RFD and just where they're going to be able to touch phones and not have to scan QR codes. So really, the technology piece is one of the items that it's already there. It's just how people are using it. I will say, I mean, what's been unbelievable to me to witness is from when we reopened in, call it June, and how much hand holding we had to do with our guests to get them acclimated and used to order entry, to even 4 or 5 months later where so many guests were coming in and going, yeah, we know, we got it. It's unbelievable to see how fast, the learning curve kind of went. And I think that will continue into the future. So I think that of all the obstacles, that's really the biggest thing. And I think we're soon to see a shift where contactless ordering is an absolute competitive advantage for those restaurants who are able to employ it. Unfortunately, for some, it has to be seamless though. So many restaurants now are doing where they'll scan a QR code and it takes you to a static menu, which is great. There's a safety factor there, which I get, but ultimately, it has to be a seamless experience. The technology has to work perfectly every time. And if it's not working, you have to be able to have someone available at that moment to solve for that issue. So I think ultimately, the technology there's so many players in the space now, some doing it better, some not as great. So I think it's really the importance lies on the operator to select a great technology, which is seamless for the fan that doesn't screw up their experience.
Hmm. And do you think that any of these consumer needs will change after the pandemic dies down?
I think undoubtedly the consumer needs, again, to me, the competitive advantage of contactless ordering. I mean, there's always going to be a space in the world for fine dining where it's servers and, classic white tablecloth. That's always going to be there. And that's fine. I do think the vast majority of operators in the middle, though, like I say, I think it's a competitive advantage to have it because for someone like me, when I sit down and my beer is gone, if I have to look around and start flagging down, a server, I may not have another beer or another drink. If I'm somewhere where I can, every time I hit, my beverage shows up in a couple minutes, that to me, that speaks to incremental sales, top line sales. And again, I do think, and an improved guest experience. So I think there's an absolute place. I think guests uh, guests will demand it at some level, and I think a lot of operators will embrace it. Not to mention, like I say, the impact it can have on your labor dollars if used appropriately.
Hmm. For sure. And I think that in the long run, it will also benefit employees who will kind of be able to um, hone different skills and kind of be more about problem solving or addressing customer concerns and needs rather than just like shuffling food and drinks back and forth and
Ab-
taking orders all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things back to one of your prior questions, where previously before COVID, we would have four bussers, three hosts, two bartenders. With When we're using the contactless ordering, we actually eliminated that, and everybody is just a front of house team member. So when they show up for the day, they may be hosting, they may be bartending, they may be running food, and it is a tip pooling situation. So they're all sharing, which again speaks to that one team, one dream. And in this environment, you can't have two hosts and two of them get sick and no one else has the skill set to work those positions. So it really has been useful in one, cross training everybody, and again having them all function as a team.
Be sure to check out more independent restaurant news content at restaurant-hospitality.com.